You know, some stories you hear in sports, they just sound made up, right? Just too wild, too improbable to be true. Well, that's pretty much the story of Dock Ellis. He was this pitcher, absolutely brilliant, but also so controversial. And his entire legend, really, it all comes down to one single, unbelievable day. So let me just ask you this straight up. Can a major league pitcher throw a no-hitter on LSD? I mean, it sounds like a setup for a punchline, doesn't it? A complete tall tale. But for Dock Ellis, this wasn't some hypothetical question. Oh no, it was a real, totally bizarre, reality-bending day that put his name in the history books forever. Bits and pieces. That's it. That's how Dock Ellis himself remembered one of the single greatest moments of his entire career. Can you believe that? And for years, he kept the whole story under wraps. But when the truth finally came out, wow, it didn't just change how people saw him, it completely blew up the idea of what was even possible on a baseball diamond. Okay, so let's get into it. The whole legend of Dock Ellis, it's really built on what went down on June 12th, 1970. But to really, truly get your head around this impossible no-hitter, you've got to see the absolute chaos that came first. All right, so get this. The day starts with let's just call it a massive mistake. Doc thinks he has the day off, so he's in LA, and he takes some LSD. Just another day, right? Wrong. A couple hours later, his girlfriend calls in a panic and is like, "You're supposed to be pitching tonight in San Diego." So what happens next is just this frantic, mad dash to the airport, a race against the clock, and somehow, he lands just in time to throw the first pitch. And the game itself, man, it was just pure chaos. I mean, he walked 8 batters. He hit another one. He later said the ball felt like a comet streaking towards the plate, and at one point, he thought the batter was Richard Nixon holding a bat. I'm not making that up. And yet, through all of that psychedelic haze, not one single player for the San Diego Padres got a hit. It's just a statistical impossibility that still has people scratching their heads. But here's the thing you have to understand. That LSD no-hitter, it wasn't just some random, bizarre accident. No way. It was kind of the ultimate expression of a guy whose whole career was defined by rebellion. To really get Dock Ellis, you gotta look past that one insane game and see the man behind it. A true rebel with a world-class fastball. I mean, this was an era of clean-cut athletes, you know? And then you had Dock Ellis. He was a total firebrand, just completely outspoken, defiant, and 100% unapologetically himself. He openly talked about using greenies, amphetamines, to get an edge, and he would take on anybody. We're talking hecklers in the stands, all the way up to the suits in the front office. He didn't care. But there's another side to this story. Underneath all that rebellious swagger, he was actually dealing with a really serious health condition. He was diagnosed with sickle cell trait, and instead of hiding it, Doc turned his own private battle into a very public fight. He started advocating for better healthcare, for more awareness for all players. It was really the first glimpse we got of the advocate he was going to become later in life. So, when he was in his prime with the Pittsburgh Pirates, man, Dock Ellis was just a walking contradiction. On one hand, an absolutely elite, dominant pitcher. On the other, probably the most unpredictable guy in the entire league. And let's be crystal clear about this. Don't let the controversy fool you. This guy had immense talent. In 1971, he wasn't just some sideshow character. He was legitimately one of the best pitchers on the entire planet. He won 19 games that year and proved to everyone he was a true ace. I mean, the resume speaks for itself, right? He was an all-star, a World Series champion. He was even named the American League's Comeback Player of the Year. So yeah, Dock Ellis wasn't just a rebel. The man was a winner, plain and simple. But he never ever stopped being Doc. You just couldn't change him. There's this famous story where the team management, even the league commissioner, started complaining about his hairstyle. So what does he do? He shows up to pregame warm-ups wearing hair curlers. In the bullpen, it was just this classic Doc move, a perfect visual statement saying, "I am not going to conform." And then, oh boy, then there was the time he decided he needed to send a message to the Cincinnati Reds, the big red machine, who were just terrifying back then. And his message, well, it was a fastball, right into the ribs of Pete Rose. He hits the next guy, Joe Morgan. Then he hits the next guy, Dan Dreesen. It was just one of the most unbelievably aggressive things anyone had ever seen a pitcher do. So eventually his playing days came to an end, and all that chaos that had kind of fueled his career, well, it finally caught up to him. But this is also where his story takes a turn, leading to the most profound transformation of his entire life. So in 1980, the party was over. Ellis hangs up his cleats and checks into treatment. He finally starts to confront all those demons that have been with him for so long. Getting sober was this massive turning point for him. And a few years later, in 1984, that's when he finally spills the beans about the no-hitter. But he wasn't bragging about it. It was more like a confession. Proof of the life he was determined to leave behind. And that's what his second act was all about, redemption. He took all of that fiery intensity he had on the pitcher's mound and just channeled it into helping other people. He started counseling fellow athletes, even worked with inmates in a California prison. Think about that. The rebel who spent his life defying authority was now dedicating himself to helping others heal. So, when you take a step back and look at the whole picture, what are we left with? What is the legacy of Dock Ellis? Well, it's just as complicated and, frankly, just as captivating as the man himself. You just can't slap a simple label on Dock Ellis. It's impossible. He was a champion, but also a cautionary tale. He was a troublemaker and a healer. He was an iconoclast, but he was also an inspiration. All of these contradictions, they were all just packed into one totally unforgettable guy. Doc passed away back in 2008, but his story, man, it just continues to resonate. It's been immortalized in documentaries, in countless articles, and I think that's a testament to the fact that some legends are just too complex, too human, and way too compelling to ever be forgotten. And so, Doc's story kind of leaves us all with a pretty big question to think about. How should we remember our heroes when they are just as flawed as they are brilliant? His life really challenges us to embrace that complexity, to look past the simple myths and appreciate the messy, contradictory, and beautiful truth of what it means to be human.